Welcome in, builders. This week we are taking a look at Machaka Lion Kings. This is low key one of my favorite nations, actually, in at least all of early age. And they are cool in middle age. I hope someday we get a late age version of them. I love their versatility. I really like these guys. So let's take a look at them. I think they're going to be a pretty cool one. I know some other people have done coverage of them, but I can no longer resist. I've waited as long as I can wait. I wanted to play some Machaka this week. Let's go ahead and get started by taking a look at their lore. Machaka is an old sacral kingdom divided into totemic clans. The clans follow their totemic spirits and worship them as bringers of civilization and tell myths about their interactions with man. For centuries, the Lion clan has dominated the others and formed a united kingdom under their wise rule. The Lion clan is blessed by Lion, and they are superior to other men. The great men of Mobabwe, called colossi by Archocephalian historians, have ruled the plains since Hyena was coerced to teach metalworking to men, and Rhino was defeated by spears longer than his. From Great Mobabwe, the semi-divine colossi of the Lion Clan rule their lesser kin as sacred kings and queens. There are many totemic clans, but some have been more influential. Hyena, Rhino, Elephant, and Spider all serve Lion with their totemic master's skills and guidance. Recent contact with Baratos and other nations have seen the rise of ambitions among the Colossi royalty, and the Lion Kings are preparing for the awakening of Lion. Just like with several of the other nations we've talked about in the past, Archocephali, Urmor, this is one of those nations that actually has pretty wide-reaching influence on the happenings of the age. So when we covered Baratos, one of their big things is they have the traitor queens. That's essentially there is an attempted uprising, an attempted coup within here, and the rebels get pushed out and flee to Baratos and influence what happens over there. Check out the Baratos video if you'd like to hear more about them. But these are the more, let's say, uncorrupted clans at this point, at least. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. We have different troops that follow different totemic spirits, and they have different bonuses. Pretty cool. They're a nation that definitely follows their lore very closely, as most do, but I think this one does a good job of it. We have a lot of variety to look at, and I think it's pretty dang nice. Let's take a look at their national features. We are comprised of humans and colossi, and I'm going to also point out we have pygmies, and we prefer a heat scale of +2. Our military is infantry, which we have several different varieties. We have poison archers, spider riders, war lions, and elephants. For magic, we have fire, we have good fire, we have some earth, we have some death, we have good nature, and some glamour. Our priests are average. I believe our highest, is just this slow to recruit priest level 2. So a little hard on the blessing, unfortunately. For scales and blesses, we get a heat limit of +1. We build standard forts. As for the sites, we have the Forest of Spider. This allows us in our capital to get Spider Clan sorcerers, the archers, the Spider Clan warriors, Spider riders, and gives us a nature gem, a death gem, and a glamour gem. Nice income here. We also have Great Mobabwe, which is the rest of our cap onlys, including our sacred, which also gives us 2 earth gems and a fire gem. So really nice spread of gem income, including having 2 earth gems, which is always nice. Let's start by taking a look at our various units. And as you can see here, we have quite a big spread. And unlike some nations that are similar in number, these are actually pretty good. They're pretty differentiated. There are reasons I would want each one. And I like that. I don't like some of the nations, I'm looking at you like T and Chi, where you have 3 versions of the same guy. And it's like, do we really need all 3? Maybe we have a light and a heavy or something, but we have less of that problem here. Let's do archers first. So for archers, we have 3 different versions, and they actually are pretty differentiated. I'm going to start with this guy right here. This is the Bird Clan Archer. He comes in with 11 precision, and he is really, really cheap. 10 gold, 3 resources, 9 recruitment points. That's pretty dang cheap. He is pretty standardly equipped offensively. He's got just a normal short bow and a dagger, and his short bow does have its nice 11 precision. However, he is not armored at all. So you're going to be relying on your higher accuracy to try to win archer duels, but that will usually not turn out well for you because you have absolutely no armor. So a single arrow hit is likely to probably kill you. Next, we have our cap-only archer, the Spider Clan Archer. Note, we do not have the Bird Clan's extra precision, but this guy is using a poison bow. These are okay. The problem with these type of poison weapons is you need to actually wound somebody to get a check of the poison. So if you hit them and they block with a shield or just a normal armor, the poison does not take effect. However, these guys are relatively massable. They're only 4 resources. They are pretty high in recruitment points, so you're not going to be getting like 50 of these guys, but you can usually get like 10, 20 maybe out of your capital depending on your blessing and scales. But with enough fire, something will get through. And remember, in Dom 6, poison also gives you some stat penalties once you've been poisoned, so these can help with a little bit of extra debuffing. Also of note, they have forest survival. Our third archer option is the pygmy. These guys are as cheap as you could possibly get, basically. 5 gold, 2 resources, 2 recruitment points. They have the same gear as our Bird Clan. Okay, why would you care? Well, first thing you're going to look at is the strength. That's really low. And remember, strength is a bigger contributor to bow damage now. So why is that? Why do you like this guy? Well, they still have 10 precision, so they're just as good as your Spider Clan. They're as good as most archers for their accuracy. But these guys, in addition to being stupid cheap, are size 2. The best size for archers is really smaller the better. Why would I say that? Because it's easier to get your buffs on them. We have good fire and we have good nature, so we can either do poison buffs to them or we could do fire buffs to them. Spoilers, the fire's a lot better because we're even worse at poking through armor than the Spider Clan, so getting that check is pretty hard. Getting the 8 fire damage, though, is not nearly as bad because it's armor piercing. Very, very good. You can fit 5 of these guys in a single square. A normal human, you get 3. A giant archer, you get 2. So you can just have an absolute swarm of these guys. The fire arrow size 20 would mean that, in theory, if you somehow hit every single guy with it, you could buff 100 bows with 1 cast of 1 fire gem from 1 caster. That is excellent, excellent coverage on that. And because they're so dirt cheap, when you have a fireball land in here and kill 5 of them, I'll get 5 more next turn. That's fine. 25 gold's equal to like 1 good archer. So quite like these guys. Alright, let's start going through more of our standard-ish infantry. We have the Machakan militia. As most militia, these guys are utter garbage, no armor, not good with their spear, bad morale. I generally would not get these guys. If I need to stick something in a fort that's cheap to help hold it up, I would rather get the pygmies. With these guys, they're only 0.1 siege defense compared to 0.5. However, the bows will do something when you get attacked, whereas these guys will just rout off the map instantly. Not useful very much. Next up, we have the Machakan Warrior. This is kind of the base chassis for our different troops. This one in particular has a length 3 spear and a hide shield. Other than that, not armored, standard human stats. This is the least interesting of their units, but in a pinch, I mean, it is only 2 resources. I think I would get these guys over militia if I did want to get something cheap to hold up walls. At least we could catch arrows at the front and maybe get some repels. Not overly interesting, but a fine, cheap option. Next up, we have a more interesting one. We have the Hyena Clan Warrior. They are standard human chassis, although they are a little more rugged with 11 HP. They have Wasteland Survival. They have a length 3 spear. They have 2 javelins. Yeah, 2 javelins. And they actually have furs. So our protection is 5 because we have no head protection. So it's doing it's averaging there. These guys are decent. I have had games where I've expanded with these guys even. Uh, hold and fire, double javelins going in, and then we have a okay shield backed up by some furs and a spear. These guys are okay. They're not too expensive. 5 resources, 9 recruitment. They're a usable troop. If you like javelin troops, if you're fighting something that javelins make sense against, so usually I would say barbarians. Barbarians do not love javelins. And we have a spear, so we can try to get repels on the length 2 weapons that barbarians wield. I like these guys. They're very usable. If you want a javelin troop, he's very serviceable. Next up, we have the Spider Clan Warrior. This is a cap-only recruit. This is very similar to our Machakan Warrior. However, he has Forest Survival, and we now have a Poison Tip Spear, which is a length 3 spear that has a strong poison, and I believe you require wounding. Yeah, on damage. But you're much more likely to actually get through armor with a 12 damage spear than you are an 8 damage, or I think it's a 10 damage bow shot. And strong poison is 15 damage. That is a strong poison. They are not lying about that. I like these guys actually. If there's a reason that you'd want to do a little bit of poisoning, and you could just mix these in, right? Like you could throw just a handful of them into your line just to spread out a little bit of poison to help debuff things. Like maybe giants that aren't overly defensive or have huge protection, or maybe elephants. You could stab them and get that poison rolling on them. These guys are all right. I wish they weren't cap only, but it's okay. It's just a utility piece. Next up, we have 2 of the more similar ones. I'm going to do this guy first. This is the Lion Clan Warrior. He has a Machakan Spear. This is a length 4. Very nice to go up to length 4. Now we're repelling normal spears. He is wearing the furs, and he has the Great Hide Shield. So he is somewhat armored, but that's only going to give him protection 5 again. It's 7 on the body, 0 on the head. So no brain boys here. We're not wearing helmets, unfortunately. We are now a bit tougher. Remember, it said Lion has blessed us. We're superior to other men. So 12 HP, a little stronger, a little more trained. So pretty darn nice. We end up with only a 10 attack, but it is length 4, and it does have good damage. Also of note, 12 morale, pretty decent for a troop. No glaring holes otherwise. I guess a little bit slow at combat speed 12. Finally, we have the Rhino Clan Warrior. I like these guys quite a bit. They are also wielding their Machakan Spear, so again, it's length 4. Now, we've gone down to attack 9. They're not as well trained. However, they are formation fighters, so we're going to have 4 of these guys to a square instead of 3. So that extra harassment penalty really makes them have about the same as the Machakan attack, as long as you are nice and densely packed up. Should be noted that they are down to an 11 morale, so they're slightly not as brave as our other compatriots, but we are much more heavily armored. We have a scale mail cuirass, we have the Great Hide Shield, and we have an iron cap. I feel like this is a good combo for what I would consider kind of the lighter end of a heavy troop for early age at 11 protection, and we have 16 on the head with a shield. I like these quite a bit. Our encumbrance is actually also pretty low because we're not taking any extra encumbrance from our hat, and we only have 1 encumbrance on our shield. So we only have 4 encumbrance. That's pretty good for a grindy, somewhat heavy line troop. And with Formation Fighter, we're going to help spread out some of that encumbrance from incoming attacks. I like these guys quite a bit. And they don't even break the bank. 13, 13, 16 for the cost. Not bad. Not bad. Pretty massable. Should be noted here that 13 resources, I believe, is pretty much the highest resource troop we have, and it's about equal to recruitment. So I would suggest you probably want order slash turmoil and production slash sloth to be the same. So if I go up to 1, I'd probably want 1 in both, so I could keep this the same. But even if you don't go with any scales, I feel these are affordable enough to use. Next up, we have War Lions. Finally, a decent animal that's not a bear. Why do I like War Lions? They're 13 morale. That's pretty darn good for an animal. 20 HP is also pretty good. 15 strength, 13 attack. We've trained our War Lions relatively well. So 13 attack, 2 attacks at 17 damage and 15 damage. They are size 4, so you can get 2 of them into a square. Good, decent to good attack density. Combat speed 20. Great for hold attack rears or just to come in from the side on a formation. They are animals. They do have dark vision. Nice to have some options there. Unfortunately, they're undisciplined, but we have a unit that will fix that for us, and that's part of what makes these guys so much more usable than normal. Very good troop. And I complained about this on the Steam forum, and I haven't had enough testing to say it for sure, but it seems like they fixed the max age thing. When I did some spot checking, most of my lions were 9 or 10 when I recruited them, not 16 plus. When I did a test on this before, I was going to do this video, but other people released Machaka videos, so I decided to wait a little bit. I was getting all these old lions. Secondhand lions from Machaka, I guess. They were all coming in at like 16, 17, 18. And so you would have the old age penalty on your lions as fresh recruits, and it felt really bad. These guys are relatively affordable. 20 gold's a smidgen on the pricier side, but 1 resource and 13 recruitment points. I like to use these guys to finish out whatever I have left when I'm doing other recruitments, if I can afford them. I like them. Because we have a troop that fixes undisciplined, they're way more usable than normal animals. And having 13 morale is really nice. I think they end up with a +1 from the leader you're going to have them under. So they're not super cowardly lions, so don't have to worry about that. They're already brave. Next up, we have another cap-only unit, and a very interesting one. Spider Riders. These guys... Okay, first let's start with the Spider. He has 14 protection. So he is a heavy cavalry option, essentially, as the mount. And normally the mount is what has been letting us down on cavalry. These lightly armored horses just die to stray arrows. This guy's going to have a lot less problems. 26 HP, 14 protection. He'll be just fine. He is poison resistant, he has forest survival, he's an animal, he's undisciplined, and he's stupid. Stupid is worth noting that if they don't have a rider, sometimes they just do nonsensical things. They just skip their turn, they attack an ally. They're not great in that aspect. Now, they don't retreat, and so sometimes that's nice that they'll at least stand there and be a roadblock. But the stupid, sometimes they do turn around and kill something that was yours, so it's a thing. They have good attacks, though. We have a Venomous Fang at 12 attack with 9 damage and 35 armor negating death poison. Now, you do have to do damage, so at 9, that's maybe a little bit iffy that you're going to do it, but if you do get through there, they're going to feel that poison. They also have a melee range web attack at 12 attack. It only costs them 5 fatigue. Their encumbrance is normally 2, so you're going to get quite a few webs, quite a few attacks before they tire out. I like that quite a bit. Webbing people means it drops their defense. What's great about that? Well, now we can really get those fangs in there and hopefully get some poison rolling on that. In addition, they also have web spit. So range 8, I believe it's area effect 1. Yeah, area effect 1. And you hit them with web, same as the spell. So you can do hold and attack rear, and as things get close, they might do a couple spits, which is great to just help break up that enemy front line. And so far, we've only talked about the mount. Okay, what about the rider? This is where he gets let down a little bit. They have no armor. So this is a weird one where the riders tend to die before the mounts, where that's normally the opposite problem that we have. They're equipped with a length 3 spear and a short bow. So these guys, I like them quite a bit. You can hold and attack rear, you could hold and fire, and then they'll do all their shots. Hopefully, you have them positioned in a spot where you can do some webbing. And then they'll run out of ammo after their 12 shots and then run in. So that could be really nice on long, big battles like a throne battle. We can have these guys hold back a little bit. We can kind of let the lines establish, let the back bodyguards move out of the way, and then rush in there and have our somewhat heavy cavalry with the naked guy riding them get to the nice squishy things. My one complaint here, I do wish they had fire while moving, but they are riding a spider. I understand. So pretty good. I find them interesting and usable. I tend to start the maps getting lots of lions to help expand, but as I move into fighting nations, I tend to move over towards spider riders. But either way, very good options to have. Speaking of good options to have, we have elephant riders. And we have an elephant with 10 morale. That's pretty good. They're not super duper cowardly. We have a rider, we have 2 archers, and we have the elephant himself. Now, starting with the elephant, he does have a tusk attack. It is pretty damaging. He is a trampler. He's completely unarmored. Man, if we could have a cataphract elephant, But unfortunately, we do not. He is low encumbrance, which is good for tramplers. He does have 69 HP, nice, but no armor. So he has his natural protection of 11, which normally you're like, oh, 11, you always say that's like a heavy troop. Well, we're 1 to a square, and we tend to get isolated in the middle of enemies, and we're just going to get stabbed to death. If you want to use elephants, you do require kind of a critical mass that you have enough of a wall moving forward to squish everybody and not end up isolated and stabbed from all angles. We do have 2 riders, and they do have mobile archer. So this is actually pretty nice to get 2 people shooting as you run on in. And our rider, he has a small hammer attack. Yeah, poor elephants. But it's a thing he has. You're going to recruit these guys because you want tramplers. The other stuff's whatever. Now, the problem with elephants is twofold. 1, cost. 100 gold, 18 resources, 34 recruitment. It's hard to get up to that critical mass. And elephants tend to accumulate afflictions pretty quickly, even when you're having pretty good, successful battles. So it's a pricey thing. There's a time limit on how long they're going to be useful. Even for our somewhat better morale elephant, we're still an animal. We only have 7 magic resist, so magic counters will come out that are bad for them. Yeah, that could be a bit rough. You can use elephants to help expand. Like, that still is a thing. I think you have to pick your targets carefully. But I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think you need to know the spacing really well for different combat speeds. You really need to have it so that your elephants hit properly. What you don't want is your elephants to move up and then the enemy to get to move up and do attacks to start with. And that leads into the problem with them. And the problem is when they retreat, they're tramplers, so they can squish their way through your army. There's nothing worse than losing an expensive mage to a retreating elephant. So use with caution, I would say. Animal buffs that help morale or make them go berserk, very appreciated here. Finally, we have our cap-only sacred. We have the Lion Warrior. This is a unit that I've always gone back and forth on. On one hand, it's a size 4 single attack, nothing particularly special about him guy. On the other hand, it's a guy that has 18 invulnerability, so you don't really have another way to give them like a direct protection buff, so you don't have to worry about that. You do have 22 HP, so about double a normal human. Your weapon is length 2, so at least it's not length 1, and you're good with it, and it's a magic attack that does Spirit Strike, which, if you can damage, does an additional armor negating fatigue damage. This is actually really good. In this game behind me here, I was fighting for Moria, and it was very often that even if I had just a little bit of a blow get through, I would hit them for 20 fatigue damage. And very rapidly, I started building up penalties on them as their encumbrance increased, or I even put people to sleep on some of the tougher units. And once they're asleep, you can just pound on them, and they're never going to be allowed to wake up because you're going to just keep hitting them with more and more fatigue damage. So I'm of two ways on it. It was very, very useful in my test games. I went up against some ethereal things, no problem. I'm magic. I went against some giants, no problem. I hit you with fatigue damage. I went up against some skeletal undead, no problem. I do blunt damage. So, interesting unit. I think it very much depends on your matchup. So in here, I've got Yomi, who magic weapons are really good against. I have Formoria and Niflheim, so good anti-giant sacreds. If I was fighting just pure humans, yeah, I'm not sold on this necessarily. We'll talk more about him when we talk about blesses. Next up, let's take a look at commanders, heroes, and the prophet. And let's start in with our heroes. We have several of them. We have Lady of Spiders. She comes in with Death 3. That's rather nice. She does shape change into a great spider. And she has Dominion Monster Summoner. She summons in little spiders. Is she, like, nation defining? No, but she's cool. She's usable. These are nice magic paths to have. She's a good researcher. She can do some shape changing. And she summons in some free chaff. Cool. I like her. Next up, we have Hero. And I believe this one might be a multi-recruit. I don't know why I have a memory of that, but I seem to remember that you could get multiple of these. Either way, it is a good leader. He has extra inspiration, but otherwise not particularly great. He's wearing more of like the middle-aged Machakan gear where we have plate hauberks. So he has 17 protection, 16 on the head, 18 on the body, so pretty darn good there, but he's just a leader. He doesn't have magic pass, so he's not going to be much of a thug. If I get him, great. If I don't, whatever. We have the King Triumphant. He is a Holy 3. That is really nice to have. We have usable sacreds that are a little bit hard to buff because they're size 4. Having a Holy 3 would be much appreciated. He does come in old age, but he's a Holy 3, so that's fine. Awe is nice. He's an even better leader than the last guy. Very usable. Next up, we have the Crowned Ape. Yeah, he summons in, I believe these are Machakan monkeys, or not Machakan monkeys, like Kailasa monkeys, Lanka monkeys. Not particularly interesting, other than just free. And he's a priest level 1. Okay. I mean, he's free. I don't know how much to say about. He's a decent leader. Okay. Next, we have the Ape Oracle. He does have Fortune Teller, something I don't think we have access to otherwise. Otherwise, he's just a Nature 1 mage. Okay, he's free. That's all I really have to say about him. I don't think you can get more than one of him. I think he is unique. For our standard lineup of commanders, we have the Machakan Scout. Pretty bog standard here. He's stealthy. He has mountain survival and forest survival. He's the 35 gold. He is a scout. He does the job. I appreciate he's even lower resources than normal because he's not wearing armor. That shouldn't really matter on your scout if you have armor or not. So pretty good little chassis there for a scout. Next up, we have Voice of Spider. This is a pretty rare unit. He is a spy unit. Spy units, when they are in a enemy land, you get more info than a normal scout would give you. So you get types of income, you get unrest, providence, defense, supplies, magic sites, other info. I believe you also can get access to their to the victory graphs even if they're not normally on. This is one way you could see somebody's victory graphs. They also have an ability where you can install uprisings, and yeah, that's like a random event where neutrals will try to attack. Is that great? Yeah. I think it helps raise unrest, which is kind of nice, and infiltrate enemy capitals, which is the graph thing I was talking about. Can be kind of interesting. In multiplayer, I think that would be handy. He is sacred, but he's not an assassin, so I'm not quite sure what we would do with that, other than it just helps lower his upkeep. It's only 42 gold a year. Uh, he's cost as if he's 3 scouts, so you're not going to get a ton of these guys, but they are at least more stealthy. I think they're fine. They're usable. Can be kind of interesting. Next up, we have the Rhino Clan Commander. This is our heavily armored commander. He has decent morale. His leadership, unfortunately, is only 75, so no formations. You start with one of these. I tend to make him my first prophet. At least he has some protection. Not too much to say about that, because you're probably going to use Lion Commanders. Lion Commanders are leadership 100, good morale 13, 4 bonus HP is pretty nice. They're not super expensive for resources or gold for a leader. Grab 2 of these guys, generally, since they're only recruitment points 1. They do have a length 4 spear that can help when he's defending himself get repels. He's wearing armor. He's totally usable. He's a fine troop leader. Next up, we have Voice of Lion. This is that troop I was mentioning that helps animals. He has an ability called Tight Rein. Tight Rein. This commander is exceptionally good at leading unruly subjects. Undisciplined units under his command are not restricted to skirmish formation and can be given specific battle orders. That means he can lead lions, and while he can't put them in formations, he can say things like hold an attack rear or hold an attack closest. That is super useful. That makes them way better than they normally would be. He's a Beastmaster +2, so his leadership gives +0, but for animals he'll have +2. So those lions actually come in at 15, and your elephants will come in at 12. 12 is equal to some of our line troops' morale. This is 11, and this is 12. So now your elephants have the same morale as a line infantry. That makes them way, way better. He is a nature mage and a priest, so he does give some supply bonus. He can take your blessing. These guys are not sold recruit, so you can use them to help get blesses out. And while their research ability of 7 isn't overly impressive, they're only 46 gold upkeep. So I do count that as an efficient mage. That's pretty nice. Yeah, and they don't break the bank either. 115 gold, that's not too bad. It's not too bad for what you get. They will get your bless, that's handy. And Nature 1 is a usable combat mage. You can have him do personal barkskin, eagle eyes, and then do vine arrows or webs. Those are okay. Like, it's usable. Nothing stupendous, but you'll probably need some to help you get blesses out. So at least they have something to do. And mainly what I like them for is that leadership thing. This also applies to anything. So if you're summoning in some animals, you can use this to make animal summons that otherwise are kind of lackluster pretty good when you can actually give them orders. So maybe re-examine some of the animal summons that you normally ignore and think about, hey, if I could give them orders, would they be any better? And yeah, this guy can do it for you. Next up, we have the Spider Clan Witch Doctor. This guy's in an awkward spot. He's got 9 research for 112. So he's not efficient. He's not that 10-to-1 that I tend to hold as my standard. He has 1 pathing and a whole bunch of stuff. That's also one of the things I don't like. So with 1 and a bunch of paths, let's say we're using our nature magic, well, we're still paying for the other 3 paths that we're not using. So I tend to not like these mages. And he has the double whammy of not being a good researcher. You could get a couple of these guys to go out and do some early site searching. I do feel that that is usable. You can get 4 different searches out from 1 mage. But I don't know. I don't find site searching to be that hard to do on this nation. I would rather do it properly. So I probably wouldn't get more than maybe 1 or 2 of these guys. Next up, we have the Hyena Clan Witch Doctor. Now, this is an interesting one. He is a disease healer, So that's a pretty rare ability and great to see. And that'll help him since he comes in at old age. So he can hopefully remove his own disease. He is a heretic. Heretics are essentially you generate a negative temple check wherever he's at. So if he's in your own territory, he will try to negate 1 point of dominion. So yeah, be careful with these guys. He is kind of a coward, and he's 184 gold per year for only 13, so he's very inefficient. Comes in with 1 fire, 1 earth, and 2 death. So at least he's usable. You can do skelly spam with him, if nothing else. If I was going to get these guys, it would probably be because I'm trying to do something with Heretic. Also, should be noted, I guess I didn't say this for Spider Clan, Fire, Death, Nature, and Glamour are his 4 paths, but only one of each, unfortunately. Next up, we have the, I think this is pronounced Boda. I might be wrong about that. Boda Buddha. Either way, very, very good. Similar to the previous guy, he is a Heretic 2 now. So now we're getting even more anti-dominion. So just keep in mind, be careful how many of these you have in your own territory, because it's going to hurt your own candles. He is a safe shape changer. He can change into a were-hyena. He causes 2 unrest wherever he's at. He has 1 fire, 2 earth. That's a nice path. 2 death. This is a good combo because you can do summon earth power for a little bit extra fatigue reduction and then do skelly spam. And he gets +1 to those paths. So he can roll up to an Earth 3 mage. Earth 3 is the cutoff for making boots and helping with hammers. So very, very, very nice to be able to get that natively. We don't have to do a pretender if we want that. And he has a forge bonus. So he lowers the cost of things that he is crafting by 1. So very nice mage here. 240 gold per year, though, for only 17 research. Efficiency is not there. You're going to probably want 1 or 2 to be doing some crafting, or maybe more if you're trying to do some heretic shenanigans. But just like I said, be careful how much you're hurting your own dominion and how much unrest these guys are causing. Should be noted, too, that these are not cap only. So you can get them wherever you want them. Next up, we have the Spider Clan Sorcerer. This is a cap only mage. And he's similar to the second mage we looked at. 1 fire, 1 death, 1 nature, 1 glamour. But at least he has randoms. He gets 2 separate 100% chances and a 10% for the same pathing. I tend to get 1 or 2 of these guys, and I'm hoping to get high or high glamour for site searching purposes. Other than that, though, I wouldn't get too many of them. They're 216 gold a year for only 17 research, so they're not particularly effective. Again, no armor, so they're a little bit on the sketchy side for getting killed. They're okay. They are your best glamour mages, so if you get lucky and you get a 3 glamour, you could do some Twilight stuff, which could help your other guys be far more useful with their 1 glamour. So has some use, but and they're not like defining or anything here. Next up, we have our 2 better cap only mages. We'll do the Lion Queen first. She comes in at 3 fire, 1 earth, 2 nature, priest level 1, and she only has a 10% chance for her random. So what you see is basically what you get. She does have fire resistance, which is nice just to have some freebies. 17 research for 178 upkeep cost. So at least for upkeep wise, she's at least close. However, she is slow to recruit. She has a golden spear, so she comes in with a magic weapon. And she is wearing a piece of headgear, but no other armor. For a lot of our mages, Chthoric lion hides is a craftable item. We may want to consider crafting that because we are size 4, so we are easier to pick out with Fire Large, or just by AI targeting. We are a big target. We have 18 HP. Having a little bit of protection would sure be nice. Otherwise, this is a pretty good mage. Fire 3 is very usable. It's perfectly serviceable. We're going to go up to 4 with Summon Phoenix Power. For us, the big things are we could do some lava spells or magma spells. We could do big fire spells. We can do flaming arrows. I feel like flaming arrows is a thing this nation wants to do. We have both the pygmies and we have the accurate bird archers. Both of those are fine choices for that. We also could use the extra morale and attack from the thaumaturgy attack fire buff. So could be pretty handy there. Otherwise, yeah, this is the one I generally would fall back to for recruiting from my capital. You're going to want as many of these as you can get generally. Our other cap only guy is the Lion King. He is only 2 fire, 1 earth, 3 nature, and he goes up to a priest level 2. His randoms are also only a 10%, so I wouldn't count on those. He is our best leader, 120, so that is rather nice. He has 60 magical leadership if you're summoning things in. These are good paths. Again, we can do Phoenix Power. We also could do Summon Strength of Gaia, so we could bump ourselves up to a Nature 4, which is pretty handy for some of the big nature spells. I do think we are interested in Barkskin things, Relief, Howl, all the good nature stuff we would quite like to do. If you want to do Poison Arrows, he can do that pretty well. He is a Priest level 2. That means we open up our Sermon of Courage. Our troops could definitely, they would appreciate some extra morale. So one way you can do it. Also our best guy for getting blessings out on our sacreds if we're using them. However, he is slow to recruit, and he competes with the Lion Queen, who, in my opinion, has, generally speaking, better combat pathing with the 3 fire. Unfortunately, I wish either one of them could more easily get up to Earth 2, so we could summon Earth Power, because it's just such a strong buff, but we do have a way that we can make Earth Boots. I do not think it would be a horrible waste to give these guys Earth Boots, which gets them to Earth 2, and then you could Earth Power in combat from there. And that opens up Earth buffs, like Strength. Again, he's not wearing particularly good armor, so giving him a Chthoric Lion Hide would probably be appreciated so he doesn't die. This is a pretty pricey. 490 gold, slow to recruit. Our Lion Queen, 445, slow to recruit. You definitely don't want to be losing these. Who would I make my prophet? Well, the first prophet, I almost always do the original commander for them, which is a Rhino clan. I think that's perfectly fine. They have good protection. They are combat speed 13, which is faster than the Lion Clan. So if you need to retreat with your prophet, they have a slightly better chance of getting away. But other than that, you could drop it on one of your expensive mages to lower that upkeep. But as I always say, you want your Holy 3 doing Holy 3 things. You don't want them casting spells, because that's what mages do. So generally speaking, I'm looking at these guys. I might consider a Voice of the Lion. He could give himself Barkskin and Eagle Eyes, or even just Barkskin, and just give himself a little bit of protection there. But yeah, these guys aren't hard to get. I tend to go with those two. National items and spells. We have 3 national spells. We have 2 from Conjuration 3. We have Summon Elephant, and we have Great Lion. So you could summon in some random elephants. I don't find that particularly useful. Maybe if I just wanted to bulk, I was recruiting elephants, and I just wanted to bulk out the numbers a little bit. But these are just standard 8 morale elephants, where ours have 10. I still don't like these ones. Summon Great Lions. These are much more usable. I think these are basically the same stats. Let's see. 15 strength, 13 attack. 15 strength, 13 attack. 13 morale, 13 morale. So these are essentially just offloading from recruitment into summons, which I do think is actually okay here. If we look at our spell, Pride of Lions, 9 nature gems give us 15 plus. That's not too bad. It only requires 2 nature. We can get a nature 3 guy, so we're getting 16. You could buff that up a little bit more by getting a little bit more nature. 16 for 9 gems. I think that's okay. This is an okay use for nature gems. And because we can make them disciplined, they're far more useful than I would otherwise find animals to be. So I actually like this one. It's a usable one. Unfortunately, I do not believe, let me just double check myself, that these guys are sacred. If these were sacred, we would be cooking. I don't know why Roos gets sacred bears and we don't get sacred lions, even though we worship lion and we are the lion tribe. I'd love to see Sacred added to these guys. I think it would be very interesting for this nation to have that, but we don't. So, usable spell. I think it is a decent dump of nature gems. Good to just get a bajillion lions to help bulk out your early army. They're pretty good siege strength. So one cast of this would be 16 of these guys. So that'd be, let's call it 40 siege strength. Not bad. Not bad. We have a one non-summon national spell. We have Weavers of the Wood. Requires 4 nature, so kind of hard for us to cast. We'd probably have to craft a Thistle Mace. Costs 6 nature gems. And what it does is it allows you to cast this in forests and cave forests. And it gives you patrol strength plus 100 versus enemy units. You're able to detect invisible things, and you will have spiders that aid patrolling forces in combat. Duration is 1 month plus 3 months per extra gem. It's okay. Like, if I had a throne that was in a forest, or I want to make sure no one can see what I'm doing in my capital, this isn't, like, stupid expensive. Like, let's say we throw, I don't know, 10 gems at this, so we have 4 extras, so that would last 13 months. It's okay. It's okay. I definitely think that there's some use here. I've never actually had the enemy attack me to see what the spiders patrolling would be, but I'm assuming that they're probably small or medium spiders. I highly doubt they're the large ones. So, usable. I mean, some extra chaff is always appreciated, and it can be handy, more so against players than the AI, but being able to get rid of everyone's scouts that are watching things can be handy at times. Like if you're going to, let's say, teleport in and claim a throne, or maybe you're teleporting out and you're not going to have a certain person there. It's okay. It's okay. As for national items, we have no national items, but we do have a national discount. And that is the Kitharonic Lion Pelt. This is actually a pretty good armor. I tend to actually use this on a lot of different nations. It gives you 4 extra hit points. It gives you invulnerability 18. And it does give you some backup protection for head 6, body 6, for only 1 encumbrance. So for crafting 1 item, you get head protection and body protection. Assuming that you're not getting hit with something magical, you have 18 invulnerability. That's pretty good. That's like heavy infantry levels of protection. And the 4 extra HP is pretty nice. For our nation, with our discount, it only costs us 3 nature gems and 2 earth gems. If you can find a way to get a Buddha up to nature 1, I don't believe they have nature. Let me double check. Yeah, you would have to empower one of these guys. However, I might consider doing that because with the forge reduction that they already have, so they already come in with 1 cost reduction, that's going to make it 1 earth gem and 2 nature. And if you give them a hammer, I believe it only goes down to 1 and 1. I don't think you can get to free. But still, for 2 gems, I would have probably 2 of those guys, just 1 or 2 Buddhas just cranking these guys out. Now, admittedly, that would involve empowering, so maybe not. But even if you just have your Buddha craft you a hammer and hand it off, you could still get this for 2 nature gems and 1 earth gem. I think this is a very good item. We have expensive mages that we'd like to keep safe, and this is just a good item to do it. So definitely would consider that. I want to call out, since I'm in the screen anyways, Fire in a Jar is pretty darn cheap. We can craft them with our discounts, so we can make these really, really cheap. And getting that temporary fire gem is nice. We have lots of people who can do some fire stuff. Flaming arrows would be nice. Our bigger fire melee buffs would be nice. And even just throwing in elemental at the beginning of combat or something can be useful, especially relatively cheaply. You could get this down to 4 or even 3 gems. So if you use it 3 times, it's paid for itself. Very nice, very usable item. Another thing that we would quite like is the Cornucopia. The Cornucopia is the nature temporary gem generator. It requires nature 3, which we can recruit. We could get a hammer to bring the cost down to at least only 14. And it gives you 2 2 nature temp gems, and 75 supply. So a very nice item, not really breaking the bank even. So you could have a couple Lion Kings that could do, I don't know, a couple swarms. You could do a relief. You could do some of your big bark skin stuff without having to fiddle faddle around with gem supplies. Pretty darn nice. I think it is definitely a nation that would like to go up to greater magic items at least. There are plenty of other things, of course, that are good there. We do have homunculi there, which can be really nice for the research bonus. We have those lion mages who are very efficient but slow researchers. Well, they would be pretty supercharged with plus 11 research, and again, very very accessible cost. That's not too bad. We have good nature searching, so we should have some decent nature income there. Otherwise, we've already talked about the earth boots, which are pretty handy. Um, if you had some blood on your pretender, maybe Armor of Twisting Thorns for some extra magic buffing may or may not be in your future. It could be interesting to go for Ivy Crowns if you wanted to do Vinemen, but for us, because we have that Lion summon, I think I would lean on that more so, and I don't think the Ivy's as interesting. I think those are the main. I guess the Thistle Mace, I'll just call that out as a +1 nature booster that we can easily craft once we get to Construction 5. Other magic that you should consider, as previously mentioned, the fire buffs out of Thaumaturgy. These have really, really grown on me. I like these a lot. +2 melee skill with length 3 or length 4 spears means that we're much better at repelling, and the extra morale is very appreciated by our troops, who are not the bravest people around. We can easily cast the large version, the 20 plus version, because it's fire 3. We can craft jars of fire, so we can easily have a couple Lion Queens cast this for us in every combat. Otherwise, in enchantment, we are very interested in fire arrows. I think it's worth going up to 5 for flaming arrows. This may be your rush target. You may decide to rush. I'd probably do conjuration to 3, so you could get your lion summons if you needed them, and phoenix power on the way, and then you could get your flaming arrows here, and then maybe construction 3. Like, that'd be a fine opener in some order. Very doable. If you didn't want to do that, though, evocations are pretty good for us too. We have fire 3 for sure's, so we can cast flare. We can cast falling fires, so praise Rex as we do. We have the ability to possibly roll fire 4s, and we can always get them a booster so to do fires from afar. This one can be pretty good because we can mass this up. Let's say you had 3 or 4 queens all cast this at one army. That's a lot. That's a lot of hits for a lot of fire. Could be pretty good for weakening up some armies you're going to hit. Could be pretty good there. Flame eruptions doable by us. I had mentioned magma spells, but no, they don't get the magma spells, unfortunately. I guess we go up to magma eruption, which is Earth 2, so you would need the boots to be able to cast it, but we can get that. I mean, we can get boots. And this is a really good spell. I mean, range 30, which isn't that far, so you're going to be relatively accurate, and you can eagle-eyes yourself, so you'll get the extra bonus there. 6 plus, and we're not going to get much plus on that because we're only going to be at Earth 3 if we're casting this, but 6 area is pretty good. You can get a couple of them off. Good damage on it, and it adds a cloud. So maybe a little bit of a surprise for somebody. We're within striking distance of being able to do Firestorm if you want to do a huge battlefield wipe level spell if you're prepared with fire resistance buffs. Pretty good stuff here. Pretty good stuff here. Otherwise, we also could do alteration. We have good nature stuff, so the buffs in there. We have a little bit of earth stuff and fire stuff, so it could be pretty interesting to do that. Get our cold resist. We could do incinerates. Blindness, good for anti-thug type stuff, possibly. Maybe if you're trying to do thugging, you need Phoenix Pyre. Could be pretty good. And Conjuration, like I said. I do like the Lions as an early break in case of emergency, but there's other things in here that normally I would never look at using that are actually kind of usable. And I'll just call one out. Summon Fire Ants. You get 10 plus, and so you can easily get that. These guys summon in. I have some. This guy. So he is a magic being, so he has to be led by mages, but that's fine because you're going to want to lead them with that voice of lion. He can lead 10 of these and make them non-undisciplined. So I like to stick these guys on the sides with a attack rear, and I let them go be cannon fodder because they're size 6 with decent HP. They tend to draw fire from mages and archers. 14 protection helps them against that archer stuff. They do have a pretty nasty attack, 11 attack with a weak poison attack. They are mindless, so they have no morale issues. That's huge for animals. Yeah, these are interesting. These are interesting. They're not going to win battles for you, but I really like them as just things I'm okay with dying that I'm just going to put out front as distractions. And it can be really, really nice to have the enemy firing magic and arrows at these that I literally don't care about. A lot of the anti-animal spells are actually they're magic resist, but they affect morale. But these guys are mindless, so you don't have to worry about that. So can be kind of interesting. Again, size 6 is bigger than anything we're gonna have. So if somebody is trying to do something against your large units, maybe these guys pull that script away. Pretty interesting use for a spell I never consider otherwise. Okay, so let's bring all of that together. Machaka is a nation that has a wide variety of troops that almost all of them have use cases, and we have a lot of utility here. We have javelins, we have several flavors of archer, we have several flavors of line troops, we have animals that are actually usable because we have tight rein, we have elephants if we want to go that route. We have a sacred that ranges from meh to a good counter, depending on what you're fighting. We have an okay lineup of recruit anywhere mages. They're not good at researching. We have a recruit anywhere slow but very efficient mage for research. We have 3 cap onlys, 2 of which are very, very good. They have good combat pathing. We have a perfectly acceptable leader. We have cheap scouts, and we have the extra utility of a spy. So we are a nation that has a ton of utility, a ton of usable troops. Really not the best at anything, but we can change up our strategy depending on what's working. For national spells, we really only have Summon Lions, but it's a usable spell. And it's a spell that we can do, which gets major bonus points from me. So I'm happy enough with those. So this is a nation that can use scales. We have perfectly acceptable troops, but doesn't need scales. We have usable sacreds. We have sacred mages. So maybe a mage bless would be interesting. Depending on what you're using your sacred for, different blesses might affect them. Various levels of usability. Of note, I don't think I called this out. The sacred size 4, and we're hard to bless. So this is a nation that I like enlarge on. And we will take a look at some pretenders here. As you can see here, Machaka has a lot of options for pretenders. And they have some relatively unique ones that are ranging from kind of memey to pretty usable. So I want to give a couple special callouts. Colossal Fetish, 240 points. I really, really tried to make this guy work. You can kind of sort of do it. If you're going to use him, you're going to want him to be awake and use him to help expand. So you're probably going to go in large bless because he's only size 9, so he actually can get use out of it. And you're going to want him to self-buff and then go into melee and cast spells. And you're going to do, I believe it's called Iron Fists. And he's pretty killy with that. His problem is he can fatigue out, and then you're just a lump of HP and protection. And you're not as high as a monolith, probably. I guess if you took hard skin, you'd have 29 protection. That'd be pretty funny. He does have blunt resistance and piercing resistance, but somehow he doesn't have slashing resistance. I'm not sure how that works. He's mindless. So again, mindless protects you from a lot of shenanigans that may otherwise cause him problems. Ditto with inanimate, although that also makes him vulnerable to shatter. That can be pretty brutal if somebody can get that up and on him. His innate spellcaster is what allows him to cast spells in melee. Interesting, funny, debatable how useful he is. Speaking of debatable how useful you are, we have the titular Elephant Idol for 390 points. 390 points. You get a Earth 1 Astral 2. He has stun immunity. That's pretty cool and rare. He's an innate spellcaster. He is a trampler size 10. I don't even know what to say about this guy. He exists. Look at that smug look on his face too. He knows. He knows you know, and you know he knows. Funny. It is amphibious, so I guess it could help you get underwater. He does have the full gambit of resistances for weapons, and he has the full gambit of resistances for magic. So brutally tough, but how are you going to pay for 390 points? Yeah, that is a thing. Other callouts here, I do want to note, be careful on some of these inanimates. Some of them have unteleportable. So even though he has astral, don't get a monument thinking you can teleport him around, because he is just not allowed to teleport. Which is not everybody. Like, the monolith is allowed to teleport for some reason. So just be aware of that. From the Titans, we do get the Great Mother. I think this is a probably more usable, although, maybe not. I guess it's the same pathing, and he is slightly cheaper, and you would get some more Dominion. I don't know. She's a usable one. What's nice about her is she comes with regeneration, but way less protection. So I think he does her job better, actually. The regen's what tempts me, but in this case, I don't know if that's worth it. You could just pay for it on him, I suppose. Maybe like large and regeneration. Usable if expensive. And that would work for your sacreds. Otherwise, we have different ones to taste for scales purposes, but I struggle with Titans a lot. I just think they're way overpriced. If these guys were like 2/3 the price, I think they would be far more competitive. I think they're priced too high for their scales changing. We do have the usual suspect of the Demi-Lich. For monster expanders, we have several, again, of the usual suspects. Worm is usable, the Bulls are usable. The Myrmicolian is interesting. He does have 18 protection, so if you give him Hard Skin and maybe Fire Shield, he could probably expand okay. That'd give you 24 protection. You could probably get that a smidgen higher. So 24 is a little on the low side, but with the way that Fire Shield was buffed, he might be okay there. I'd like to get him a regen item really badly, and that would make him a lot safer. He does go Berserk for 5 more, so that's 23. That'd be 29 with Hard Skin. That'd be okay. Do note he is a pop killer, and a pretty high one too, so just keep that in mind. Yeah, I don't know. These are to taste. Like, these are usable. Again, you'd probably go Hard Skin. He does have Awe 3, which is very helpful. So let's say you went... He does have Regen. So, like, Hard Skin, Fire Shield. Be interesting. Be okay. Hard Skin does not help your Sacreds very much, though, unfortunately. For unique things, we also get a Buddha Father. Only 100 points. Fire, Earth, and Death with only 20 costs for a new path. He does have the crafting bonus. It is a way to get a Buddha that doesn't have Heretic, if that interests you for some reason. I don't find this guy particularly good, but he's an option if you want to have a mage that's at least a little bit flavorful. And for 100 points, you get an extra 2 paths compared to his other compatriots, so that is pretty handy there. Let's just grab one here. For blessings, I think you generally want to be looking at either a mage blessing for your cap-only mages, or you want to get something that's decent for your sacreds. For that, what I would lean towards is probably larger. It takes our sacreds up to size 5, which is the place to be. You want to be size 2 or size 5 if you get to choose. Those are the best because you can fit a full 10 size into a square, and larger will let you do that. The extra HP, the extra strength, the defense, we're not particularly defensive units anyways, and it ups our map move, and it's always active. So it doesn't matter that we're not particularly good at getting blessings out, we just have larger. So pretty handy there. Other things of note, we already have magic weapons, so we don't need that. We don't need arcane finesse to get through penetration or anything. We already have invulnerability. This does not stack and make it more. I do think that maybe Berserker could be interesting, but I really don't like Berserker on expensive cap-only mages. Maybe Low Light could be interesting to help you get underground. Regeneration could be usable. Awe could be usable if that's what route you wanted to take. I don't think our Sacreds are particularly good at using Blood Surge, but again, usable. Same thing with Enchanted Blood, usable. So I'm not a big proponent of a major bless here. I think you're going to go something like some precision and some reinvigoration if you're going to go mage bless. Let's take a look at what I'm going to most likely run. This is Bubba Bones. Bubba Bones is a Demi-Lich. Yes, I know everyone sighed Demi-Lich. Partly, I had seen some people on the forums grousing about Fear, and I figured I haven't ran Fear in a while. Let's run it again and see if I have a strong opinion about it. I didn't in my test games, but maybe I will on stream. So I took a Dormant Lich with Larger, so we get that right away, and we don't have to bless it, which is super duper helpful in our early game, because it's hard for us to get good blessing coverage. And then a year in, we get our Fear to come out. This made our Sacreds usable, if not stupendous. They're kind of a utility piece, I would say, and the Fear gives them something to do later on. Fear is also nice if you want to try thugging, like a light thug on your queens or kings. Can be kind of useful there. And I was able to get a little bit of scales here. Pretty good Dominion strength, which helps with the heretic problems we have. Decent amount of Sacreds. I did keep my order and production the same. Originally, I was trying to do 2 production, but it was too much. I had leftover resources and not enough recruitment. If I was going to have these different, I would go higher here because our animals need more recruitment points than they need armor points or resource points. I did lower our heat by 1 to pay for this. This will still keep us, generally speaking, from freezing, and it keeps us away from heat 3 or 4, so we don't have to worry too much about that. Otherwise, not particularly scaly, just a little bit of production help here, essentially. And he was all right. I paid for this blessing by grabbing a little bit of Astral, and that will allow him to teleport, so he can help me claim thrones. He is not a guy I'm going to want in combat with his 3 HP, but he does have immortality, so if he dies, he comes back in your home province, and it only takes you 1 month to reform, and you lose most of your afflictions. So that is really nice if you do need to teleport him into, let's say, a throne battle. He is a pretty heavy caster here. Maybe you do like some skelly spamming rigor mortis. That would be a surprise people wouldn't expect. Or earthquakes could be a surprise people wouldn't expect. So there's things he can do. Mainly I got him for this bless and nothing else. So I'd be curious to see what other people have liked. Do you like your big fetish? You be able to put that on full display. Do you like some of the monster expanders? I feel like Machaka expands okay. They don't need an expander, but they would appreciate it. They're not also stellar expanders. So pretty interesting there. So those are my thoughts about early age Machaka. One of my favorite nations, kind of surprisingly so. I just like the theme's cool. They have usable troops. I wish they had a couple more unique spells. I would love to see that. I really enjoy what happens to them in the Middle Age, and hopefully I'm looking forward to maybe they'll get a Late Age nation at some point. So let me know what your thoughts are there. Be curious if you guys have like a super sauce bless, because what I was using there was about as interesting as I could make these guys while not being ridiculous. So we'll see. Maybe somebody can change my mind on that, and we'll find something cool. Otherwise, I think they're totally usable. And fun mages, fun magic, just an overall pretty fun nation. I would actually rate them pretty decent as a beginner nation too. There's nothing here that's particularly tricky. I mean, I guess the heretics, but I mean, most new players aren't going to see why you'd want to recruit those. I don't think. I think they're going to focus here. So, pretty cool nation. Pretty cool nation. I look forward to streaming this one. I think it's going to be a pretty chill one compared to some of the ones we've had recently. So, look forward to talking to people on stream and in the comments. And I will see you there, builders. Take care and build something cool.